All right, transactional analysis. I want to talk to you about a personality and a communication model just very, very quickly. It's called transactional analysis. All it is a study of how people communicate. A transaction is a communication, and analysis is a study, right? So they got this big fancy 50-cent word, and all it means is we're going to look at how people talk to each other. That's transactional analysis. Transactional analysis believes that human personality has three ego states: the child ego, the adult ego, and the parent ego. Three ego states. Now let's look at these. All three of those ego states, one on top of the other, the parent on top, the adult in the middle, and the child on the bottom. That makes up the personality. Now let's look at this. When we think and act and feel like a parent, we are in our parent ego state. And when we speak, we communicate like a parent. Does that make sense? Does sometimes you act like a parent, a caretaker, the teacher, right? That's your role. And you think and act and feel like a parent. Other times you think and act and feel like an adult. Now this is a terribly gross oversimplification of a lot of this, but for our purpose, I'm going to explain it, all right? Now let's look at the child ego state. When we think and act and feel like a child, we are in our child ego state. And when we speak, we communicate like a child. In the parent ego state, there are two sections. We have in the parent ego state the controlling critical parent, and that's called the CP, the controlling critical parent. We also have the nurturing parent, the accepting parent, the parent that is not critical. Have you got that? One parent believes in this program over here that you've got to be critical and controlling to be a parent. The other parent is over here. They're nurturing and supporting and trying to keep them from getting killed, right? You can be either one of these parents. You decide what you're going to be. Now my tendency in my family, which was dysfunctional, was to be the critical controlling parent. That was the model I had. I didn't know much about this nurturing parent who was accepting and did this free choice thing with consequences and support. I didn't know much about that. We'll skip the adult and let's look at the child. The child also has two sections or two parts to the child. There is what we call the adaptive child and the free child. And now just very simply, the free child, that's the curious person, the person who likes to have fun. That's your honest, goodness self, all right? Now the adaptive child is the child that is developed to survive in the world. All right? The child begins to adapt and be socialized so they survive in the world. Lying works, they do it, right? If having a tantrum works, they do it. Alcoholics are in their adult child here in this illustration, all right? Now, this adaptive child then becomes what the real child believes they have to become in order to survive in the world. The free child is the honest self. They don't have to be anything. They are okay. And they have their own feelings, and it's okay to have their own feelings, and that's the difference. The adaptive child is the cunning, thinking child that is playing the games to survive in life. Now let's look at the connections here between the nurturing parent and the free child, and the critical parent and the adaptive child. The nurturing parent has a tendency to support and continue and to strengthen the free child. Can you understand that? And the adaptive child is tweaked by this controlling critical parent. It is the controlling critical parent that really helps to develop this adaptive child, because they have to adapt. And maybe this child fills a role, this adaptive child begins to fill the role of the smart kid, or the one that cries, or the sensitive one, or mother's helper, or the best sport, or the smartest kid at school. Do you understand? And this is the role they begin to adapt to so that they can survive, because that is the child's interpretation of what they have to become in order to be accepted and loved and survive in the home. So who creates the adaptive child? It's the critical parent who really, really forces this child to adapt these roles. The nurturing parent does not require that. The nurturing parent accepts the child, loves the child. The nurturing parent has unconditional love and respect for the child. The critical parent gives the message, I love you if you please me. Do you understand? If you do what I want. It's very, very conditional. Now we don't know how powerful this is until we begin to feel how we feel about our parents. Now let's continue to look at this. The critical parent is really the one who then develops the adaptive child. How much of you is critical parent and how much of you is nurturing parent? If I was to ask your children, tell me, are your parents usually nurturing parents or are they critical, controlling parents? What would your children say? Which program do you subscribe to? All right. Most of us are in the controlling, critical parent because that is the way we've been raised. That's what we think the school requires of us. That's what we believe the church requires of us. That's what we believe the government requires of us. That we rush in, that we're critical, that we're controlling, and we get the job done. And we are not nurturing. We are not patient and kind. We do not have the patience to step back and to watch the child and to assist the child. We have to jump in and make it work and fix it so that everything is okay. Now we can go on to the next task. We can't keep our hands off. There is a constant struggle between the critical parent and the adaptive child. And it is the adaptive child that plays all the games with the critical parent.